friends, my name is Max, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new to the vlogs, and welcome to Vlogmas day 18. Cheers! You're a little bit wonky, I'm just gonna move this, this angle slightly. There we go, that's better. So this morning has resulted in some unexpected events, I must say, and I'm a little bit stressed, but it's fine. So this morning I received in the post my PIP form, and if you don't know what PIP is, in the UK it's the personal independence payment. It's basically what they call disability allowance nowadays, and so I'm in the process of trying to claim that. And my form actually was dated the 1st of December, but obviously it's the 18th of December now and I've only just received it. And you have a time limit in which you need to fill out this form, which is pedantic and complicated and confusing. You have a time limit to send it back to them. And so on my form that I opened this morning, the date for me to send it back to them was the 1st of January, and I am not going to be able to do that. So I spent at least an hour this morning on the phone, on hold, trying to get through to them.
Thank you for waiting. We know that you're waiting to speak to an agent, and we'll put you through as soon as we can.
In the end, I gave up just sitting here at my desk and went downstairs and made my breakfast while I was on hold, which I'm really glad I did now, because I'm glad at this point in the day that I've eaten already, because there's more to the story. So I managed to get through to them eventually, and it was someone who couldn't actually authorise the length of time extra that I needed to be able to fill in the form, because obviously, as you know, I've talked about it on here in various Vlogmas episodes before, I'm going to my parents' house in France for Christmas, and so I'm not even going to be here by the time my form is meant to be back. And I told them that, and that I needed extra time, and the amount of extra time that she could give me wasn't enough. So she then forwarded me on to a more senior person within the PIP department or whatever, and I had to fight for it, but I got extra time. I ended up, instead of having to get it back by the 1st of January, I now don't have to get it back till the 29th of January, which I'm really proud of myself for, because it was incredibly stressful having to talk to them and having to justify my experience and having to explain and blah blah blah. All of these things are really difficult for me because of the language processing issues. There's so much adrenaline pumping through my body right now, which is why I'm able to speak to you like this so quickly. So yeah, I'm just really proud of myself for fighting for that extra time, because it's going to take a lot of weight off and pressure of like when I arrive back. So the next part of the situation is that in order to fill out my form, I am receiving help. I am paying for help from a non-profit charity who specialise in helping people fill out this form. And I was told by them the last time I spoke to them that when my form arrived in the post, I needed to call them to make an appointment. You have to like sign consent forms and everything for them to be able to help you fill out this form. So weeks and weeks ago, I signed this form, sent it back off in the post to them, but they told me when I spoke to them on the phone this morning, after I'd extended my PIP period of time, they told me that they'd never received my consent form back. So the way that they work is you make an appointment with them after they've received your consent form in order for them to help you fill out the form. So when I was on the phone to them this morning, the person told me, I can't make you an appointment until we've received this consent form. And I said, well, I sent it back to you weeks ago. And he said, but we haven't received it, so we're going to have to send you another one. And so I explained the situation about going away and I'm not going to be here and blah, blah, blah. And so what this has resulted in is now, 2 days before I fly, it's Monday today, I leave on Wednesday, I'm going to have to walk into town to their offices to be able to fill out this consent form to then be able to make an appointment for the week after I get back from France. And basically, if I don't do that now, by the time it comes to me coming back from France in January, they will be booked out and I won't be able to fill out my form and get it back to the PIP people in time. And if you don't get your form back in time, they do have grounds to disqualify your claim, basically, and I would have to start the whole process again. So that's the situation this morning. It's been eventful. I'm ready to go though. I've had a shower and washed my hair, which was always the plan for today, because I wanted it washed this week before I leave. I wash my hair about once a week, if you're wondering, and I don't want to have to do it on the morning that I leave. So that's done, which I'm glad about. I've done some laundry already as well. I don't know how I managed to fit that in, but I have done some laundry. On a week where I'm travelling, I always really try to dish out the tasks over the days of the week so that it doesn't get really close to the time and I'm stressed out about all the things that need to be done. So that's the situation. I'm gonna go into town. It's about a half-hour walk and I think it's raining. So I'm gonna take my brolly and I'm gonna get myself something as a reward after this whole experience is done, because this has been stressful and overwhelming. I've already cried multiple times this morning and I need something to look forward to. Okay, we can do this. I'm trying as much as possible to breathe through this whole eventful experience and not get too stressed out about it. But I do feel a little bit of a time pressure because I've received mixed information about when this place closes. So let's go.
One eternity later.
Good afternoon, friends. It's now 3:20 and I just got back from town. I don't think I filmed very much, so I just thought I would sit down with you and talk about the day and how things went and what I purchased for my treat to congratulate myself for getting through the stressful day. I'm so sleepy and my legs are so tired and painful from walking so much. My lips look blue. That is disconcerting. I'm still wearing my lanyard. That can come off now. Maybe I'll give you a little lanyard tour. So this is my sunflower lanyard. It means that I have an invisible disability. So it kind of lets people know when you're out and about that you might need more time for things, or that you might need some support, or you might need some extra patience, or whatever it might be. So I wear this when I'm out and about, usually just for appointments and things, but sometimes when I go into town I wear it too, especially if it's particularly busy, because I just feel better being around crowds of people, knowing that people can see that I might need a little bit more space away from the hordes and hordes of people. So I have 3 badges on here. One of them is just a little award that says I got out of bed today, which I love. The other one is this sensory sensitive dinosaur with his sunglasses and headphones on. He's really cool. Maybe he should have a name actually. I don't know why he's a he. Maybe he's a they or a she or another pronoun. Let me know in the comments what you think I should name this little dinosaur. And then the last one is just this little chili packet that says neurospicy. And then on my actual lanyard clipper thingy, I have this little peas in a pod fidget toy where you just like squeeze, you can fiddle with the peas in the pod. Then I have 2 different pairs of loops. These ones are the loop Engage. I don't know what the decibel levels are, but the Engage ones are supposed to allow you to still be able to hear enough to have conversations, but kind of block out external sound around that other than the person in front of you speaking. And then these ones are the loop quiet, which is the highest level of loops. And then I just have my autism alert card from the Metropolitan Police. I just have this in case of very worst case scenarios, just to protect myself in case I ever, for example, have a really bad meltdown in public and emergency services are called or anything like that, and I'm struggling to communicate. When you get an autism alert card from the Metropolitan Police, you also get given an autism passport. It's this size. I'm not going to show you the front of it because it has all my information on, but it basically just has all your personal information, date of birth, name, phone numbers, email addresses, and then contact details of people who might support you. Inside it talks about what your difficulties might be, tips about how to communicate with me or about how to ask me how I'm feeling, and then on the back it has a bunch of different tips about how someone might help me. So this card on my lanyard guides people to ask if I have one of these. So that's just a really cool thing. If you didn't know that and you're in the UK, you can basically just email the Metropolitan Police and ask for an autism alert card. I think you have to send them some specific information or something. But it's not a very difficult process at all. It was really accessible for me to communicate with them and get the card sorted. So yeah, that's what's on my lanyard. Also, just to say, having this card as well, it really makes me feel better about doing things like travelling on my own and going into environments like that where it's kind of high stress for me. Because it gives me the security of knowing that, like, if anything were to happen or if I were to get way too overwhelmed or something, there's like a guide for people as to how to deal with me, basically. So it kind of gives me a sense of security. Anyway, that's my lanyard blabble of the day. I've made myself a mocha. Cheers. And this mocha is so overflowing. Look at it, it's like full to the brim. It was an accident. Oh, that's really good. I really needed a coffee. I feel like now that I'm home, I can like decompress somewhat. So just to update you on what happened when I got into town since this morning. So I arrived to the place where the charity is based that are helping me fill out the personal independence payment forms, and I was met by the person who I had spoken to on the phone, which was great because I was dealing with the same person. He was really helpful, really kind, and we basically within 10 minutes had filled in the forms that I needed to fill in. I'd given my donation because as a non-profit organisation, they take donations on a case-to-case basis. So I gave my donation so that I can receive my support from them. Oh, I'm just so tired. And that was basically all that we needed to do, but he did also chat with me a bit about what the process was going to be like. Oh, and we made the appointment that I needed to make in order to talk to the person who is a specialist in dealing with these kinds of forms and these governmental systems, who is the person that will help me fill out the form. So we made that appointment. It's well into January, which is great, which is great because I'm gonna have enough time to fill out the form and get it back before the deadline. So that all got sorted really easily. I'm so glad I went into town and just did it and got it done, because if I'd have left it until I get back from France in the new year, it just would have been so much pressure and stress. So I'm glad that it's done, that I know when my appointment is going to be, and that I know that I'm going to have enough time to fill out the form and get it sent back. So that's all that dealt with. So then I decided I would treat myself to a little stroll around the bookshops in town. Obviously, I'm sure you guessed that my treat to myself would be books. I was gonna get myself a coffee, but then I thought, I can just go home and get a coffee. It's so nice to be cozying back up in the house after having time outside, stressfully running around and trying to get things sorted. I'm sure you'll see the lighting rapidly changing during this clip because it won't be long until sunset. So the first place I went to was the Works, and I picked up The Ruthless Lady's Guide to Wizardry by C.M. Wagner. I have seen this, in the Works especially, multiple times. I did not know it was queer. I think this has a woman-woman relationship, or at least an insinuation that they like each other. And as you can see, it was £3, which is just a bargain. Let me read you the blurb. So it says, Delaria Wells, petty con artist, occasional thief, and partly educated fire witch, is behind on her rent. To make ends meet, Deli talks her way into a guard job in the city of Lice Court. Lice Court or Lace Court? I'm not sure how you pronounce that. Joining a team of unconventional women to protect an aristocrat from unseen assassins. It looks like easy money and a chance to romance her confident companion, Win. But when did anything in Deli's life go to plan? With the help of a necromancer, a shape-shifting schoolgirl, and a reanimated mouse named Buttons, Deli and Win find themselves facing an adversary who wields a twisted magic and has friends in the highest of places. It just sounds really adventurous, and like there's magic in this world and there are witches and wizards in this world, and that's definitely my kind of thing, especially if it's queer coded. Let's hopefully peel off this sticker with success of no left behind glue. Success! No left behind glue. Also though, isn't this cover just so pretty? I love how it looks. Oh, everything hurts. I must say, since being in autistic burnout, I haven't been able to exercise as much. And it's a bit of a catch-22 because I'm now at a point where I would like to be exercising a little bit more. And I walked for about 2.5 hours today, which is quite a lot for me at the moment. It's not that much for me in the grand scheme of my life, but for the moment, since I've been in autistic burnout, it's quite a lot. And so at the moment, every time I'm doing a day like that where I'm walking quite a bit, it ends up being really painful because it feels like my joints have stiffened quite a bit and I'm not used to as much movement. So it's painful, but at the same time I'm grateful for it because I'm looking forward to when my joints are a bit more used to moving around again. And I'm referring to my joints quite a bit because of the hypermobile stuff. Like, my joints are really affected by how I move and how much I move and the way I move and all of these things. And they're definitely worse in the winter time as well. It's definitely more painful for me when it's colder. But yeah, I'm really grateful that I'm at the point where I was able this morning to just drop my plans and be like, yeah, let's go into town, let's walk into town, let's get this sorted today so that I don't have to worry about it. Because at the beginning of me in burnout, I would not have been able to do that. Oh, I definitely need rest now this evening though. So after going to the Works, I then had a stroll in Waterstones, which, if I wasn't purposefully like proud of myself for dealing with today and wanting to treat myself, I probably wouldn't have gone into Waterstones at all because I don't really like paying their prices. But I found Rooftoppers by Catherine Rundle. Now, as you know, I'm currently reading Impossible Creatures by Catherine Rundle, and I, before owning that book, had never heard of her before. And since then have looked up her previous books, and this was one of them that had stood out to me when I googled her. It's another one that's a children's book, but I actually think it's for younger kids than Impossible Creatures is for, because when you look on the inside, it's a bit more like a traditional, what you would think of as a chapter book. That's what I called them as a kid anyway, a chapter book. Let me know if chapter book is actually a thing. Like, did you used to call books chapter books as a kid? Kind of like in that 7 to 13 type of age where you start reading proper books. I always called them chapter books. I think my school called them chapter books as well, so maybe it is a thing. Anyway, this is kind of like what reminds me of a chapter book. And the synopsis says, oh, it's winner of the Waterstones Children's Book Prize and winner of the Blue Peter Book Award. So it says, everyone tells Sophie she was orphaned in a shipwreck, but Sophie is convinced her mother is alive and she's determined to find her. High up above the city of Paris, a group of children live secret lives on the rooftops, and a boy leans against a chimney pot watching Sophie arrive. Join Sophie on a thrilling adventure about pursuing your dreams and never ignoring a possible. It just sounds really sweet and like a little adventure, and I'm kind of trying to embrace my inner reading child recently and just really read things that feel like fun. And so if that's a kid's book, I'm gonna embrace it. Especially if it's Catherine Rundle, because I'm really enjoying her writing. And honestly, I'm also obsessed with this cover. I feel like book covers are just getting more and more beautiful. So I'm very excited about this. I might actually read this straight after Impossible Creatures because I've been toing and froing about what book I want to bring on my journey on Wednesday. So it might end up being this because I'll probably have finished Impossible Creatures by then. And I don't like travelling with a hardback, and my copy of Impossible Creatures is a hardback. I always just think there's no point in travelling with a hardback because it's just extra weight. I may as well bring a paperback. And then lastly, I popped into the library because I had this idea for the rest of Vlogmas where I thought at the beginning or end, I'm not quite sure yet, of each Vlogmas episode, I could read to you a little bit. So, in the library, I found A Puppy's First Christmas by Holly Webb, illustrated by Sophie Williams. And this just sounds like a cute little kid's Christmas story that I thought would be fun to share with you. It has 8 chapters, I believe, so between now and Christmas Eve, because I don't think I'm gonna vlog Christmas Day, we can read a chapter each day, and on 2 of those days we'll have 2 chapters. The chapters are really short, so that will be completely fine, I think. So, I think we will move from this location over to the desk and get cozy because the lighting outside is not really giving us much anymore, and have a chapter of A Puppy's First Christmas. Hey friends, so I decided to come down to the Christmas tree instead and get cozy down here, get a nice comfy cozy blanket and read this first chapter to you. So feel free to pause the video now, grab yourselves a heartwarming cup of tea or coffee or hot chocolate, cozy up, and let us begin. A Puppy's First Christmas by Holly Webb, illustrated by Sophie Williams. When we come across illustrations, I'll show them to you. Chapter 1. Aria slid out of the classroom door and stood next to it, her back pressed against the wall, breathing hard. She had been looking forward to the end of term Christmas party. Lots of games and fun and party food, but it had all been too much. The inside of her head seemed to be spinning round and around, and she felt dizzy. Suddenly, she wanted nothing more than to be back home, curled up on the sofa, with Jackson's head resting in her lap. Or all of Jackson in her lap would be even better. She'd be stroking her puppy's soft fur and everything would be peaceful. Are you all right, Aria? I saw you come out. Are you feeling sick? Miss Lyons popped her head round the door, looking worried. Here's the little illustration. Aria shook her head and tried to smile. I'm okay, it's just really noisy and bright. It is a lot, Miss Lyons agreed, but she still looked concerned. It's not long until the end of school though. In fact, we should probably start tidying up. Would you be able to run a little errand for me? Could you go and ask Mr. Fordham if I could have my cleaning spray? He borrowed it yesterday and I'm going to need it to wipe over all those sticky tables. Aria was pretty sure Miss Lyons had invented the errand to give her some time away from the classroom, but she didn't mind. She nodded and walked slowly down the corridor, to the Year 4 classroom to find Mr. Fordham. If she was really slow, it would be practically time to go home when she got back. What was it about the party that had been so hard to cope with, Aria wondered, as she headed back up the corridor with the bottle of spray. The noise? Everyone rushing about? Maybe it was just the excitement that seemed to be bubbling out of everyone because it was the end of term. Aria could understand that. She loved Christmas and she'd been excited about it for ages. The last few weeks had been cold and damp and miserable, and her whole class was desperate for the holidays to come. By the time she got back to the classroom, the floor was covered in a thin layer of crushed up crisps and broken biscuits. Everyone was helping to clear up, grumbling a bit, but mostly looking forward to the bell going and heading home for the Christmas break. Miss Lyons was already sending people off in 2s and 3s to get their coats. "Thanks, Aria, I'll take that. You go and get your things." Aria went to put her coat on, hoping that Dad would bring Jackson with him when he came to pick her up and her brother James. For some reason, Aria had really missed Jackson today. They'd only had him for a couple of months, but now she couldn't imagine their house without a wriggling ball of chocolate Labrador puppy. Jackson was gorgeous, and whenever she was tired or upset, he made her feel better. He wasn't always calm. He could be excited and bouncy and puppyish when they were out in the garden or at the park. But if Aria was feeling like things were too much, Jackson seemed to know. He'd come and lie on top of her, just when she needed the weight of him. Aria would hug him back and all the buzzy worry in her head would drain away. Aria hurried out into the playground when the bell rang, waving goodbye and calling Happy Christmas to her friends. Yes, there was Dad, just outside the gate, and he had Jackson with him. The puppy was looking so smart in his new red collar and lead, and Aria could see lots of her class giving him admiring glances. Jackson spotted her coming and Aria smiled to herself as he started to bounce up and down, whining with excitement. It felt good that he was so pleased to see her. "Hello, love, did you have a fun day? How was your party?" Dad asked. Aria crouched down to rub Jackson's ears and shrugged. It was okay, it was a bit loud. Mum and Dad knew that she couldn't deal with noise and big groups sometimes. Things like that could make her feel weird and shaky and upset. Mum said she was more sensitive to them than other people were. Aria could tell that Dad was a bit worried about her now. "I went out into the corridor for some of it." Dad nodded. "Sounds sensible. What are you going to do when you get home? How are you starting off the holidays?" Aria smiled at Dad. She could tell he was trying to change the subject. "I'm going to wrap up." She pressed her hands gently over Jackson's ears. "Jackson's present. I bought it with Mum when we went shopping at the weekend. It's a special dog toy for Jackson's first Christmas." "Nice," Dad nodded and then waved. "Oh, hey, James." Jackson squirmed lovingly round James's knees and Aria's big brother picked him up, letting Jackson lick his cheek. "Hello, who's a good boy?" "We'd better head home. We've got a lot of decorating to do," Dad said. "I picked up the Christmas tree this morning. Plus, I'm getting chilly and I bet Jackson is as well. We've been standing out here for ages." "Mr. Turner said he reckons it's going to snow soon," James said as they set off home. "Really? Proper snow that sticks?" Aria asked excitedly. There'd been a little bit of snow back in February, but hardly enough to make a snowball, let alone a proper snowman. "Yeah, he said so. I hope it snows for when Matthew's here." Aria nodded, but she looked thoughtful. Matthew was their cousin and he had 2 younger sisters, Lucy and Hannah. All 3 of them were coming to stay the day before Christmas Eve, with Auntie Anna, Mum's sister, and Uncle Josh, and Gran and Grandad. Aria was really looking forward to it, especially since she didn't get to see her cousins very often. They'd never even met Jackson. But it was going to be a busy, noisy houseful. She loved the thought of a big family Christmas, but she couldn't help feeling just a little bit nervous too. Jackson sniffed at the huge tree that had appeared in the corner of the living room. He wasn't sure what was going on, but he loved the sharp, piney smell that it had. He reached up a little and nibbled the end of a branch, surprised by the spiky feel. Aria leaned over and gently pushed him away. Jackson, no, it's bad for you. You'll get needles in your tummy. Jackson leaned against her happily, distracted by the fuss he was getting instead. His back paw drummed against the carpet as Aria scratched just the right spot behind his ear. Aria giggled. I love it when you do that. Was he eating the tree? Mum asked, carrying in a box of decorations. Jackson got up to nose that as well. He worked his way round it, sniffing at the cardboard. What could it be? Just a little bit. Silly boy. Mum looked at the tree with a frown and called back to the hallway. Dave, I've got the decorations out of the garage, but maybe we should leave putting them on till tomorrow. It'll give the branches time to open up out properly. And there's a bit in that puppy book about Christmas trees. It says it's good to give the dog a little while to get used to the tree before you start decorating it. That way, at least, if Jackson jumps at it, he's not going to get tangled in tinsel. Dad came in from the kitchen and put down a tray on the coffee table. He's definitely been a bit bouncy today. He must be starting to feel Christmassy too. We're going to have to keep an eye on him when all the family arrives. It'll be different for him with so many people in the house. Aria looked at Jackson, who was still sniffing at the box of decorations as though it was the most interesting thing he'd ever seen. She felt a bit guilty. She'd been half excited and half worried about everyone coming for Christmas, but she hadn't even thought about how Jackson was going to feel. Jackson left the box and headed for the tray. Whatever was in the mugs smelled even better. He prowled hopefully around the edge of the table, knowing he wasn't supposed to jump up. Hot chocolate! Aria hurried over and Jackson looked at her hopefully, wondering if she would share what that delicious smelling stuff could be. Aria was always good at slipping him little treats. With marshmallows as an end-of-term treat. Dad handed a mug to Aria. Be careful, it's hot. Then he looked round at the tree. I hadn't thought about Jackson jumping up at the tree. Isn't it cats that do that? He was definitely interested in it, James said, and Jackson watched him pick up a steaming mug. Whatever it was smelled too good to miss. Does that mean we can't decorate the tree until tomorrow? I think it's probably best, but we can do the rest of the house, Mum said. Wrap tinsel round the banisters and put the wreath on the front door. Jackson sidled closer to Aria. She had one of those good-smelling mugs now and she was sitting on the floor. He wandered round behind her and then came up close on her other side and ducked in for a huge slurp of hot chocolate before she could stop him. Jackson, Aria squeaked. You're so naughty. But Jackson could tell she wasn't cross. She was laughing. He licked chocolate off his damp whiskers happily and eyed the mug. He could try again in a minute, he reckoned. We definitely need to give him time to get used to the tree, Mum sighed. And there is a little illustration of Jackson and Aria and Jackson drinking his hot chocolate. So that was chapter 1, everyone. And we'll have chapter 2 tomorrow. As always, thank you so much for joining me for Vlogmas Day 18. Bit of a different one today. Not really as much of a vlog, but more of a sit down with me here and there and receive updates of the day. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and click that subscribe button because it really helps me, and I will see you tomorrow.